So Maxxxine is the newest horror film that was just released. This is actually a horror film that I have actually been waiting on for quite some time because it is the direct sequel to the X film that is part of the X film series that was created by Ty West. So you have to say I was pretty excited to see how, this character, Maxxxine Minx, continues on after the events that happened in the movie X. So the movie actually takes place in the mid-1980s. Actually, there's a big time gap there because the X movie took place in the late 70s and we've jumped all the way now to the mid-80s. And we are rejoined by Maxxxine Minx, of course, who is played by Mia Goth. And she has, become, this person who is trying to break now into the Hollywood film series. That's right, she is trying to break away from her usual career as an adult entertainer and now trying to break into actual Hollywood filmmaking. But of course her main goal has still been the same, and that is she wants to be a star. It's just that now she's completely changed, really. She now is more of an aggressive character than she was in the first X film. I mean, in the first X movie, Maxxxine was more of a carefree character. She enjoyed what she did, making, adult films, and actually wanted, she was just so carefree with what she was doing. She was fine with this career as long as, it kind of made her a star. In this movie, though, she's completely did a 180 here. She's now more aggressive, more assertive. She wants to be, to make her dreams a reality no matter what it takes, and she's focused on working now. She's no longer into the party scene or going around to just screw with guys. She has her focus on her goal, and that is to become a star, and she is willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. I want to stay on Mia Goth still for a little bit more because her characters that she has played in this film series has really been quite incredible. She is putting her all into these characters that she's playing. I mean, she's gone from, the carefree Maxxxine Minx to, of course, in the sequel Pearl, where she was a lot more glossier. And then now we get this more assertive Maxxxine Minx. So, I mean, it's in every film, she brought out a different aspect of herself. And that's something that I find truly incredible because it's she can change who she wants to be at the drop of a hat, and she's going to be she's an amazing actress, and I really can't wait to see what she does after she branches out from this film series. Now, about the film itself, Ty West is actually also an amazing director. He gives off a feel of us pretty much going back to the past when it comes to these films that he's making. I mean, in this series, the first one, X, is supposed to take place in the 70s, and it actually gave off a 70s feel. Very bright colors, a lot of sunlight, and, it felt like we were watching a movie from the 70s. It actually gave off a Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel, the house, the bright colors of the house in the middle of nowhere, all that sunlight, that felt like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel. Then when we got to Pearl, we got the glossiness of a 50s film, and in a 50s setting, and I was like, wow, this actually feels like I'm watching something in the 50s. And then we get into Maxxxine. That movie really had a feel for the 80s, and it actually did give off the vibe of a suspenseful thriller horror film. Whereas the other two, with the color grading and the way it looked, it actually really didn't give off the vibe of a horror film at all. Unless you saw the trailer to those two films in the beginning, you probably would have never known that those were horror films. Whereas with this one, it definitely gives off that vibe. That this movie is supposed to have some chills. I don't want to go too depth into spoilers, but there was actually one scene that was shown in the trailer that actually was a true fact. It was actually when Maxxxine was in the video store and she said,
"Name 5 celebrities who got their start in horror movies."
Jamie Lee Curtis, John Travolta, Demi Moore, Brooke Shields, and
Maxxxine fucking Minx.
That is actually a true fact. There are a lot of big name actors that actually got their breakthrough in horror films. And Jamie Lee Curtis and Johnny Depp are two of them that I know of. Jamie Lee Curtis from Halloween and Johnny Depp from Nightmare on Elm Street. So, they actually pointed out, Ty West actually pointed out that fact in this movie, how horror can be a good stepping stone for actors trying to get into the movie scene. So, I mean, it was good that they covered that fact. Another positive I'd like to point out is Kevin Bacon. He did a great job in this film, in my opinion. He brought a really great feel when it came to being an antagonist, even though he was not the main antagonist. He was a great... The way he played his character, I really enjoyed it. He, like, stole the show. It, like, completely moved from Maxxxine to him whenever he was on camera. And it was like he played this private eye who worked for the main antagonist. And he just brought his A game, in my opinion. It was great to see him on screen. He was a big standout. Okay, now I'd like to get more now into the negatives, because I've pretty much told you guys all the positives for this film. Now on to the negatives. When it comes to this story, this one still very bland, in my opinion. Now, if I had to rank the stories of these movies, X would definitely be number one. Then it would be Maxxxine and Pearl. Now, I will say this was a step up from Pearl's story, because Pearl's story I found was okay. But the story here was a little bit better and a bit of a step up, but I still felt like it was pretty bland. It really missed the horror aspect. It felt like it just was strictly a suspense movie. And also, it felt like there were times on the storyline where I was like feeling like the movie was going off course from the main story, and it was like completely going everywhere. There were like moments where I was feeling like, is this really needed? Also, the main antagonist was very anticlimactic as well. I mean, with this main antagonist, if you haven't seen the X series or just haven't seen it in a long time, a lot of people probably thought this was probably the Night Stalker, which they were referencing a good bit in this film, because this is the time when the Night Stalker did carry out his crimes, and he did carry it out in those years. But it wasn't him at all. The whole point of the story was trying to kind of make you believe that was it, when it wasn't him. And when you do finally get the main antagonist, it's just like such a letdown and very anticlimactic. I mean, I really didn't enjoy it that much either myself. Maxxxine brought us great characters with a great tone and feel here. It's just only that the story and the build-up that we get in the story to get this anticlimactic ending, along with things where things aren't really happening and the plot line moves away, it just feels like this movie could have been a little bit better. Now, if this was how the film series was going to end, because originally this was going to be the conclusion until Ty West announced that he planned on creating a fourth film. If this was what this movie was supposed to be, the finish, the conclusion to the X film series, I would have said, like, this is not what I was expecting for this film series to end. But since it didn't end this way, and we will possibly have a fourth film coming out, I am saying that this was a good addition. It's just, though, I feel like it could have been a lot better. And I'm hoping that the climax in this if the fourth film is the conclusion, that it will give us a better ending for this character, Maxxxine Minx. Overall, I'm only going to give Maxxxine a B-. Yes, this movie has its negatives that kept it from being a great movie, but that does not mean that I did not enjoy this movie. I felt this movie was good, and it is worth the watch. Alright, well, if you guys have seen Maxxxine, please comment here down below what your thoughts were on it. Also, if you like my other videos, please check out here more on my channel, and always remember to stay epic!